Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is Brushy. How's it going, mate?
Usually, I would say it's a pleasure to be here, but it's been one of them weeks, hasn't it, Carl?
Been one of those months.
hmm hmm
So, we've lost four of our last five league games. Our only win coming at the Etihad against Manchester City and Pep Guardiola, and that really says it all about them that they our only win of December since the first of the month when we
hmm
got that 4-0 win against Aberdeen. We've just been losing most of our games apart from that one. And on Boxing Day, that form continued with another dismal 2-0 defeat away to the team in 18th in the table, Wolverhampton Wanderers, with their new manager bounce. We seem to be the only team in the league, or the only team in the history of football, who does not experience a new manager bounce when we bring in a new manager. And one of the reasons for that is obvious. That's because the manager is trying to implement a system, and we don't have the squad that is suited to that system. This is a squad largely built for Ten Hag's football, whatever that was, and you can see it right away with the fullbacks alone. They, the two fullbacks, are operating as wingbacks, and that blunts our attacks. We have ourselves in a situation where diagonal balls, really good diagonal balls, have been played out to Dallow in space, and then he's taken on the Wolves right back as if he's a winger, and he's not good enough to do that. Yes, he managed to have a decent shot on target from outside the box, which was comfortably saved by the goalkeeper. But most of the time, when the ball's played out to him, he can't beat the fullback. He usually just turns back and passes the ball backwards, and our attacks are blunted. Um, Inexcusable from the captain to once again get himself sent off, which he has done multiple times this season now. I know one of them was rescinded, and that obviously had us on the back foot. I think the ball was in the back of the net just seconds later, although that was disallowed for offside. And then once again, we can see directly from a corner. It's the second time in a week that it happened, and different goalkeeper on this occasion. And Man United must be the only team who can concede directly from a corner 7 days after they last did it. And that's, yes, I know that there was a defender in front of him, or no, an attacker in front of him, and an attacker behind the goalkeeper, but he has to be stronger. And I had to look at his teammates there. He should have recognised that situation and came to support him and nudge a few of the Wolves attackers out of the way. But for me, that wouldn't happen to Peter Schmeichel or Von der Sar. The goalkeeper has to be stronger there. So, I want to get your thoughts on the game then, Brush.
Calamity of errors. Both of the goals were very disappointing. They both, I felt, could have been prevented. We'll get into the first one. Yeah, like you say, the fact that we've conceded the same goal in the space of a week with two different keepers shows that it's not just the keepers at fault there. I do attain blame to Anana. He should have done better. He should be commanding that area, which he doesn't do at all. But defensively, the shape, whatever that is that they're doing, it's not working clearly. So something's got to give. I think we're joint top with Wolves, having conceded 9 goals from corners, which is a record high in the league. So that needs to change. Um, the zonal marking stuff, man, and just who we're putting on people. It's not working. The keeper absolutely has to do better. It goes straight through him. At least with Bayindir, I can say that he was impeded. If VAR was a thing, that goal probably wouldn't have stood. And Onana obviously saw that and said, "Hold my beer. I can do better." And then the second goal pisses me off because obviously, had we not been a goal down and in that position where we're pushing everyone forward in the final minute, we don't get caught on the counter. So yeah, two very disappointing goals uh, given away that we could have prevented. Um, but in terms of our attack, we are utterly, utterly toothless, Kyle. There's just nothing going forward. Again, it was one of those days where I thought the best chance of the game for us fell to Diogo Dallo, and that tells its own story, where he just takes random shots from outside the 20-yard box that doesn't really test the keeper. So yeah, so a lot of problems, some of which you touched on already. The fact that this manager has a particular style and system that he wants to implement, but we simply don't have the tools. And under previous regimes, we've seen it where The new manager comes in, they try their own thing, and when it doesn't work, they revert back to, the tried and tested. With Ruben, I think he's going to be stubborn. I think he's going to stand on the decisions that he's made. But that also means until there is time to recruit, we're going to continue to suffer. That's what it means. Like, I don't, and at the end of the day, it's a results based industry as well. So this is where he's really going to suffer. Um, we've seen the fiasco with Dan Ashworth, where we spent 6 months chasing him and he's gone after five and we paid compensation and that. Um, if the results continue on this downward trajectory, I'm really worried that they might just pull the trigger and sack this manager, which would be absolutely ridiculous. But if they did, I also wouldn't be surprised with how they operate. I had a little look into their history at Nice as well, with the amount of comings and goings, and it doesn't make for good reading. But yeah, honestly, under what we're doing now, without recruitment, I don't see how this improves. Do you?
No, is the simple answer. And yeah, that would be a catastrophic mistake to sack the manager and blame the situation on the manager.
Yeah.
Omar Barada was the one who insisted that he comes in mid-season,
Hmm.
whereas Ruben Amorim wanted to come in the summer. And this is why I'm now of the opinion that Ruud van Nistelrooy probably should have stayed to the end of the season and then brought Ruben Amorim in.
Absolutely, Kyle. I think that would have made the most sense. I know it's easy for us to say in hindsight, but the fact that he asked, it's kind of messed up everyone's season. It messed up sporting season and it messed up our season. Like, especially in the summer when you've backed the previous manager with a further 200 million, you've got a squad that clearly isn't set up for any kind of 3-4-3. Would it then not make sense to bring him in the summer where you're in a position to, take out the players that you don't want and whatnot. And then Van Nistelrooy would have offered you continuity in what they were doing, and in a more familiar system to the players as well to just ride out till May. But now you've put everyone in a situation where what are we really doing here? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. But the manager is going to persist with this system. He's not going to compromise
He
on his
absolutely is.
principles.
And to be honest, Kyle, I don't blame him. He should, because we've had that. We've had that before. And this has been one of the complaints that we've had before, that people come in, try to implement what they're trying to do. And then, at the first sign of defeat, they revert back. And then the players have gotten used to that as well. How often can we just recycle and just blame the players? Oh, these players aren't ready. They're not giving it their all. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. Uh, but yeah, it's so until there's recruitment, there's nothing that's going to change. And then when defeats happen, some of the polarizing decisions rear their heads again. Oh, should he bring Rashford back? The chances are, to be honest, if Rashford had played, the result probably wouldn't have changed. It's one of those.
Yeah. I mean, how many defeats did we have when Rashford was playing?
Exactly.
Uh,
So yeah, yeah. That was one of my concerns against Man City when he made the big call to leave Rashi and Garnacho out. But then I was so glad that he got the victory as well, because it kind of added to the fact, and that didn't then become the headline, the fact that they were missing and we fumbled. But yeah, yeah. So in terms of that as well, I mean, we've only got a week to go before we find out what happens to Rashi. I suspect he'll be off on loan somewhere.
yes, I certainly hope so because this distraction is not good for us either.
Yeah.
Because I think the media talk more about Rashford than the actual results of these games. Um, yeah, just back to the Wolves game. Yeah, it was a struggle at both ends, as you say.
Hmm.
Every defeat now has all the same ingredients: conceding from a corner, conceding from a counter attack, blunt attacks, missing chances, the captain getting sent off.
Yeah.
Obviously, that doesn't happen every
Again.
week,
We
but
didn't
yeah,
even touch on that properly, did we? See, this is what, like the fourth red card this season? Like absolutely ridiculous from one of our most senior players, from the club captain, and yeah, just petulance. And then his studs are showing as well. So I know some of our fans were saying, "Oh, it's soft," but it is what it is. I didn't have an issue with it, to be honest.
soft. He could have got a straight red for
Yeah,
that
yeah,
tackle.
that's what I mean. I think sometimes people look through rose-tinted glasses, right? Especially if you didn't think so the first time when you see the replay. Studs are showing. It's
Yeah, and you're right in what you're saying that we did concede the second because we were pushing bodies forward and we
Yeah.
only left Martinez back, and he was outnumbered. But one thing I noticed, having watched it back, was how easily Garnacho was pushed off the ball, which led to that counter attack, and
hmm
that's totally unacceptable to me. I don't care what size he is, you cannot be pushed off the ball like that in the
And I
Premier
tell you
League.
what, Carl, in the in contrast, did you see how physical Cunha was?
Yeah, and I'm really impressed by him as a player, actually.
Yeah,
And
yeah, he's having a
he's
brilliant season, isn't he? I know there's been a lot of talk about him as well, and yeah, I was quite impressed with his work rate, the fact that he tracked back, and the physicality, because that is a thing. That is definitely a thing. That's something that we have to look at in recruitment going forward. In this league, you have to be physical. You need athletes.
that is his 10th goal of the season, which is impressive considering he's playing for a team that is struggling at the bottom of the table.
hmm
And I think he had a really good season. I think at 14 last season, he seems to be a player who's kind of blossomed quite late in his career. He's 25, but he's really starting to come into his own now. I know he's had several clubs as a young player, Hertha Berlin, Atletico Madrid, and one or two others.
Yeah,
But
we were linked to him when he was at Atletico. At that time, I didn't think he was the right profile of player for, the manager we had at the time. And also, he wasn't very prolific or anything. I think he scored like 7 goals in 40 odd appearances. But yeah, he's having a fine season now. And also, I will say, in regards to their manager bounce, I think it helps that they brought in a manager who plays a system and style that they're used to. So Gary O'Neill also played, with five at the back and that, and they've got the wing backs and they've got the players that fit the profile. So I think that makes it a seamless transition. Whereas with us, it's very different.
yeah, the Amorim had to correct a journalist on that very subject
Mm-hmm.
after the game. A journalist was pressing him, asking why have Wolves not needed time
Yeah.
to win games under a new manager, and he says because the manager plays exactly the same way as the
hmm
previous one. That's why, whereas we are trying to implement a completely different system
Absolutely. It's
than
it's a silly question to ask as well. I don't know what that journalist was thinking. Maybe he just wanted to get a reaction out of him.
yeah, or just doesn't know what he's talking about, which isn't unusual for a football journalist.
Or
Um,
that, yeah. Because obviously it's all about profiles and having the right people. Like for me, it's I mean we spoke about how important it was that we got a new left back in the summer, especially in this system. It's imperative that we get a left wing back.
oh, like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Um, all these beautiful balls played out to Dallo, and then the
hmm
attack breaks down. And
Yeah.
I'm not even blaming Dallo at this point. It's just not his position. It's
It's
not his
just that
strong
that's what
point.
I mean. There's just yeah, and I don't know. There's a few problems I see, and I don't see how we fix it without recruitment. To be honest, the midfield, for example, I don't like the balance in midfield when it's Mainu and Ugarte. I don't think they can work in a two-man midfield. The only way you could sort of adjust that is if there's a third man in there. Like Ugarte for
Yeah,
me is just a screen. He protects the defense and he keeps it nice and simple. He gets stuck in. That's his game. If you're expecting him to do more, you're in trouble. And Mainu's kind of gone off the boil a bit as well. I know he's only 19, so young players they will have patches, but yeah, I don't think he's been helped by all these chopping and all of this chopping and changing.
no. We've seen in the Tottenham League Cup match what a brilliant player Manu still is
hmm
and will continue to be. But yeah, I think you're right that he shouldn't be occupying one of those midfield two roles. I think in the future Manu will be a number 10. That's my personal opinion, and I think that will
I
suit
don't
his
think we're anywhere
his.
near that time now, though. I think, surely we need to develop him a bit more before he's comfortable doing even that. Because I think if we throw him in at the 10 now, we're setting him up for failure as well.
Yeah, there's so many problems that
So
the
many,
manager
like,
needs to
because I'll tell
solve.
you what,
Yeah.
Carl, I was looking at how Inter Milan set up, right? Because Simeone Inzaghi did something similar. With him though, he's got a three in midfield, and instead of a 10, they play with two strikers. But then I was looking at that, I was like, huh, maybe we'd be suited to something similar to that with what we have on offer. But even then, for that to work, you need two very competent wing backs, which we don't have.
No, what I think that he should do in the meantime is go back to what he originally done, and that's use Ahmad as a right wing back.
Mm,
Because at least that brings us an attacking threat down one of the wings. With Mazrahi and Dallo as the wing backs, it's just not good enough at this level to expect your fullbacks to act as wing backs.
yeah.
So many balls are played out to them, and they're expected to beat a man and get the ball in or
Hmm.
cut in and shoot. That's just not their game. You know, they're not Alfonso Davis or Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's asking
Yeah,
too much.
yeah. That's the thing. You need somebody truly elite. You need to bring in like a Theo Hernandez, or I don't. We've been linked with the kid at PSG, and I know he's got pace to burn. Nuno Mendes, so that might be one to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's just the papers putting two and two together because he's Portuguese as well, because he obviously came from Sporting.
Yes, there seems to be a lot of links in that direction, but yeah, there are a number of options for United in January, and they
Yeah,
have to get something done, because they
absolutely,
cannot continue as is.
absolutely. Yeah, even if it's not the permanent solution, they need to get to work in Jan.
Yeah, it's deeply, deeply depressing what's happening at the moment, and
Hmm.
it's hard to see where our next win is even going to come from
Yeah,
when you
honestly,
look at
Carl, I've looked at the
what's coming
table, mate.
next.
The only thing that fills me with any kind of confidence is that there's three teams that are clearly worse in the league. That's the only thing. Like at the moment, it really is just a countdown till we get to that magical 40-point mark. Like that's what it's come to.
I don't think we're quite in a relegation battle at the moment. I don't want to be too,
Hmm.
I don't want to exaggerate too much,
Yeah, but it's
but
relegation form though. Only Southampton have picked up fewer points than us in the last five.
Man City must be up there as well, or down there, if you want to look at it that way. Because I remember hearing a
City,
stat.
well, no, they picked up more points, so they've got one win, two draws, and two defeats in the last five. United have got four defeats and one win. Same as Ipswich Town, same as Tottenham.
But I remember just a couple of game weeks ago, Man City were level with Southampton
Hmm.
with the worst form in the league. So
Yeah, I mean,
would that put?
it's still terrible for them. I think since November 1st, I saw a stat like they picked up 4 points or something.
And how the hell did they lose to Man United?
Yeah. Well, again, that was a mess of their own making, isn't it? Well, if we're being honest, they just sort of capitulated.
Yeah, largely thanks to Mateus Nunes,
Yes.
his absolute calamity with giving the ball away and then conceding the penalty.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and obviously the brilliance of Ahmad. Um, but even the players who were playing well just a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
their form has now waned.
Yeah.
There's nobody playing well in this United team now,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
that's the
really
thing. And also, like,
disturbing.
because we kind of said as well this season now it would be a matter of seeing who fits the system and who doesn't. But to be honest, I don't need to see much more. There's nothing more that any of these lot can show me on, they either fit or they don't. You know what I mean? I don't think there's any amount of coaching that can improve the guys that are not suited to this style.
Yeah, I think Amorim knows now
Yeah.
who's going to keep and who's going to sell. Yeah, I just come back to what I said
Hmm.
earlier on X, and that's we are 100% paying the price for not sacking Ten Hag in the summer and spending a further 200 million on largely Ten Hag signings. Three out of the five are Ten Hag players, that's for sure.
Hmm.
But apart from that, I'll go, as I said slightly earlier on the show, the right thing to do was probably to keep Rude to the end of the season,
Yeah.
and then bring Amorim
Hmm.
in the summer, or we should have brought Amorim
This
in
summer gone, and then we would have
yeah.
been sat on 200 million, and he could have started the recruitment process according to his image. You know?
Yeah, do you know what? He's been given a real hospital pass, hasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I'll tell you what though, Carl, this is also the danger going forward as well. We can't now just start recruiting players for this 3-4-3 because if they decide one day that he's not the guy and he's only here for what 2.5 years, then you don't want to be stuck. Like you need versatility. So they need to scout properly and be very clever in the market and pick out players that are versatile that can fit two, three different systems.
mhm, yeah, I think you're right about that. And but in my personal opinion, and it's not going to change for quite a while, is that we have to ride the storm out and stick with Amorim.
Oh, absolutely,
And
absolutely. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So it's one of those. Like this season for me, it's just about the cups now.
and he's not just struggling because of the squad that he has to work with. He's also struggling because of the shenanigans of the part owner and Jim Radcliffe. It seems every single day there seems to be some other controversy over a cut that he's made to a budget,
Hmm.
and it's always the tiniest little saving, but it does huge reputational damage.
Yep.
And again today, it's been reported in the MAN that Manchester United have cited difficult financial circumstances as the reason for stopping funding to the charity supporting former players. The club previously made an annual donation in the form of quarterly payments of 10 grand to this charity, set up in 1985
Mm.
to support players who had represented the club, the majority of whom do not earn enough as a result of their playing careers. The club plans to continue working with them, supporting their events and participating in their activities. However, the decision to withdraw funding has been taken because the club continues to make significant losses. A club insider said the aim is to put the club back on sustainable financial footing so that we can invest in the priorities, which are success on the pitch and infrastructure renewal. Um, and this is in addition to the many other cuts that we were talking about.
Hmm.
And not even the Glazers were this draconian when it came to making cuts to, now the former players charity,
Hmm.
the disabled Man United Supporters Association, the ticket hikes where Jim Radcliffe tried to say that we're currently paying more than Fulham more, and that's unreasonable, and just
At
shows
the
you how
same
out of
price for
touch.
kids' tickets as well. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, £66 for a kids
Yeah.
ticket, just outrageous.
And also on this point, Carl, I'd also like to highlight because obviously it's very easy to be in a bubble and think that professional footballers earn a lot of money. But this is like academy graduates and just anyone who's associated and has represented the club. And there's a lot of players that don't carve out Premier League careers. So things like this do go a long way.
Yeah, and some of the players that apparently benefit from this 40 grand annual donation from the club, well, the
Hmm.
likes of Dennis Law, Dennis Irwin, and Brian Kidd.
Yeah,
So it would be a disgrace for United to leave those players in the lurch,
absolutely. And these
if they're
are,
financially
these are
struggling.
legendary players of the club. And obviously they played the game at a time where the finances are nothing like it is now, you know? So they wouldn't just be really well off. So these things help. And even like the youth players that make one or two appearances and then go on to have like obscure careers, or some of them even move on in life and take up other different things. I was reading about this one Belgian kid, Vermage. We had him briefly for a couple of years um, in the mid 2010s. He's now a postman. He's 32 and a postman.
Okay.
He's left the game completely. So there's a lot of these kind of stories as well that we don't hear about. So it's disgraceful that things like this are being taken away. It helps a lot of people and people that don't often get talked about and who we don't see.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course Radcliffe has sacked 250 ordinary employees as well. Not
Yes,
we're not
yeah,
we're not talking about playing staff. We're talking about the ordinary worker at the club.
hmm,
And in my opinion, and in the opinion of many fans, he's ripping the heart and soul out of the club. And again, that doesn't the low morale inside the club is not giving Amorim much of a chance to succeed either. These things matter, and
absolutely.
the reputational damage outside of the club is massive as well. If Jim Radcliffe wants United to win the Premier League and the Champions League in his lifetime, he's not going the right way about it, in my opinion.
Yes, it's not looking good at this stage. Not looking good.
So we're struggling on the pitch, and Jim Radcliffe continues to make some disgraceful decisions
Hmm.
off the pitch, which are not helping the manager or the players. And it's normally when we suffer defeats I can pick out maybe the smallest of positives. I can't think of one at the moment. There is none. There's no
Yeah,
positives at
yeah,
all.
and I'll tell you what, Carl. Looking at the fixture list is an absolute joke as well. I am dreading the next week. Having
Hmm.
seen what
Hmm.
Newcastle did to Aston Villa the other day, not looking forward to Monday. And then next week we we take on Liverpool.
Yeah, and we haven't won a home game since December the 1st against
Hmm.
Everton, and there have been many games in December. We've lost at home to
Yep,
Nottingham Forest. We lost at home to
yep.
Bournemouth comfortably yet again.
Yet again.
Another another hammering.
Hmm.
Um, by the way, Bournemouth to win 3-0 at Old Trafford was 50-1 before the game started. I'm almost wishing to put a quid on that and
Absolute
and,
joke.
and soften the blow. And you're
Absolute joke.
right
And
to
I
me.
told you beforehand, right, that was a game I was worried about because they did us last year as well, and they've actually got a better team this season. Uh, so yeah, very disappointing.
And let's be honest, the reason why they beat us is because they're better than us
Hmm. Hmm.
by a country mile, and the table doesn't lie.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We need to be very honest with ourselves. A lot of us, we we look through United with rose-tinted lenses. We try to hype up players that are bang average. We try to justify the overpaying and whatnot, and we have to just be very honest with ourselves. It's a very average squad.
Which is a disgrace given the amount of money that was spent on it.
Absolutely. And when you look at the wages that we're giving out as well, the likes of Marcus Rashford on Mo Salah wages, do we see Mo Salah returns? No,
No, he's
nowhere near, not even half.
he's
So it's ridiculous, isn't it? So, we have to do things merit based. We have to stop this reputational nonsense and stop handing out these silly contracts.
Rashford currently isn't even professional enough to get himself into the matchday squad.
Mm-hmm.
Four
And
games in a row
yeah,
now, he's
yeah.
not been selected by the manager.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Mo Salah, for the record, has 27 GA in 17 games, 16 goals and 11 assists.
Yeah, but this is we're talking about a world class player who's in the conversation for the Ballon d'Or most seasons.
Who is older than Marcus Rashford and
But
is still a consummate professional at 32. And we've got someone who should, in theory, be in their absolute prime or coming into their prime at what, 27?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and someone who couldn't even get motivated to impress a new manager. I mean,
yeah,
what
someone
the
who
hell
I
is going
actually
on?
thought in the summer, I thought the penny would have dropped in the summer after he was left out of the England squad. I thought, yep, this is the motivation. He needs to put his head down.
It's not going to happen, and he's as you said earlier in the show, he's going to be moved on, be it
Yeah,
on
yeah, he's
loan
going
or
to
on
be moved
permanent
on. I
basis.
think, yeah, I would not be surprised if talks have already happened and they're just waiting for the window to open now to announce it. The quicker it happens, the better. You don't want to be waiting until deadline day in January.
No, we need money in to be able to buy players as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Uh,
thing. That's the trouble. Like you mentioned, that is the real criminal thing in all of this. The fact that in the summer another 200 million went into it. If that's the case, then either you stick it out with the manager or have some sort of contingency or continuity plan. You don't just rip it up and totally go in a different direction and find yourselves in the mess that you do now. And yeah, we have to be very clever. There's a lot of players that need to be moved on, but the trouble is they're either the wrong side of 30 or on higher wages or both. So it's going to be hard to get rid of them. It's not very easy. And then you need to balance the books and be clever in the market.
yeah, and I've been saying for weeks now that I don't think Garnacho fits into the system either. So don't be surprised if he's sold in the summer.
Yeah, yeah. There
People
was
might not.
rumors. I don't know how true the sources are, Kyle, but I saw one or two things last couple of days saying apparently Atletico Madrid have a 60 million offer on the table for Garnacho. Um, Again, I
I
can't verify the source, but so it was out there. So if that's the case, then maybe it's something they'll look at.
Yeah, if he doesn't fit the system,
Yeah.
I know he's a wonderful talent, but if they're truly going to put all their eggs in the Amorim
Hmm.
basket, then and they need to raise funds, then maybe they will accept an offer like that
Yeah.
for Garnacho.
My only concern is obviously I wouldn't be happy with just letting all the homegrown kids go, you know. I think there always needs to be an influx at United. So I do think the likes of Kobe and that, and then even Garnacho, they should be given every chance possible. Um,
In in my opinion, the only players, and there ain't many,
mm,
that definitely won't be sold in 2025 are Kobe Manu, Lenny Yaro,
mm,
and Amad Diallo. I personally think everybody
yeah,
else could,
everyone's got a
could be
price,
sold.
haven't they? So
Yeah.
yeah, I know
And
that
that's
sounds
no,
really harsh, but yeah, that sounds about right to me.
obviously, obviously we're not going to sell 22
Yeah,
players,
yeah, yeah,
but everybody else
has
is
a
a
price.
possibility.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
And we have to look at the Onana situation again. Not good enough.
Yeah,
I know after the Ipswich game, we were giving him high praise, which he deserved, and because he'd had a great start to the season,
yeah.
and that was a particularly brilliant game from him individually. But he's regressed back to the Champions League games of last season
Yeah,
again.
this is the thing though, Carl. Even when we praised him, we said, you know, he's got that bozo gene in him, unfortunately, and that's not something he can remove from his game. That's always been there. So again, that is something that they should have known going in, and we've invested so much money into it. It's ridiculous. I think he might get one more season, and I think that's because there's other fires to put out. But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that eventually the time will come where we have to move him on.
And it's just a shame that he dropped under a clanger against Wolves because that shirt he was wearing, I
Was
love
so
that.
nice.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
tell you what, one of my friends mentioned the same thing. That was probably the highlight of that whole thing. That shirt was so nice.
yeah. That was the highlight of the game.
Yeah, yeah,
The
it
shirt.
really was. It really was. It's a shame that's not the outfield kit actually.
Yeah, it'd be well suited to being an away kit, wouldn't
Yeah, yeah,
it? So you mentioned Newcastle, and this is going to be
yeah.
extremely worrying to anyone who's listening.
Ah,
So in their last three Premier League games,
hmm.
they've won 4-0,
Yeah,
4-0,
yeah,
and 3-0.
yeah. That front three are on disgustingly good form. Anthony
Yep,
Gordon,
yep,
Jacob
l-
Ramsey, and Isak. And
yeah.
Joe
Let me get to it.
Linton is an absolute beast in midfield.
Alexander Isak has 7 goals in the month of December,
Yeah.
and he's coming to Old Trafford, which leaks
Hmm.
goals for fun, leaks the
We've
roof leaks
conceded
for fun.
24. We've scored 21. Minus three
Yeah,
goal difference.
our defence leaks, our roof leaks, the roof
Everything
of the
leaks.
press conference room leaks. But the one thing I do admire is that Amorim said, "I will fix this club, including the leak in the roof."
Yeah.
So he has that Mourinho style confidence
Hmm.
in
And you have
himself,
to. You have
and
to have that coming into this club. You have to. Only the strongest survive.
boy, he needs a miracle if we're going to beat Newcastle at Old Trafford. And
Ah,
that,
yeah.
do you know how depressing this is?
Yeah, yeah.
That is probably the most winnable game of the next three,
Nah.
because
And listen, seeing what they did to
and
Aston Villa, I don't know what we're going to do. Honestly, I really don't. Yeah, because I was watching
because
the highlights of that, and yeah, not only are the front three all on fire, but that midfield as well. Joe Linton, what a unit! What a transition as well. I don't think that gets talked about enough, you know, because he looked like a 40 million pound flop because he came in as a striker, obviously, and that conversion has been brilliant. So physical as well, and he gets really, you know, a lot of energy in that midfield. And then you got the other
so
Bruno, ah,
Bruno, who's actually playing
the
well.
the the, pro, the proper Bruno, the Bruno I wish we had at times. Uh,
Um, so they've scored 11 goals and conceded
yeah,
zero in the last three
yeah.
games. So another easy fixture for Manchester
And
United.
also another one to watch out for. Flipping Dan Burn. We know how big he is. I am going to be watching those corners very closely. I hope the players are too. If I
Oh,
see Leacher come up against Dan Flipping Burn, I am going to lose my
we might as well start games 1-0 down with these
mind.
corners.
Like honestly, because I'm keeping an eye on that car. Honestly, I'm gonna text you straight away. I'm just gonna start cussing everyone. if Dan Burn gets on the score sheet.
Everybody now fancies scoring a corner against us.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, we've opened the
So you're
floodgates. That's what happens. If you don't learn your lessons and is repeated, you can't blame teams as well for, for utilizing that, for exploiting
what's
that.
it? Newcastle will get two men around Onana,
Hmm.
and they will swing the ball into that
Yeah,
area and see what happens.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing.
And yeah, I meant to say Mateus Cunha has to be someone that now that we should look at. I know he's been linked in the press. Uh, so he's backed up a good season last season by having an even
Yeah,
better one this time around. And not just the
yeah.
goals, not just the goals.
Uh,
I loved the skill that he possessed in that game and the work
the
rate.
work rate is what
And
impressed me. I
yeah,
can't lie. Like, obviously he's Brazilian and we expect all the fancy stuff, but good physicality is a prerequisite in this league.
yeah, and he's like a ready-made Premier League player.
Yeah.
He's not someone who has to come
And
in
I
and
think the
adapt to
reason
a
that he
new league.
appeals now as well, obviously the system, like just he would just fit right in.
And just given how bad
Yeah.
uh, Hoyland and Zerkli have been
Hmm.
recently,
Hmm. That too. Yeah.
he
Unfortunately, it looks like Wolves will probably, avoid the drop because I was thinking, there's a few players I wouldn't mind nicking had they been relegated this season. I thought there might be some deals to have been had. I like the two Brazilians they've got in midfield, Gomez and Andre.
well,
Out Nuri as well on that left hand side.
they haven't avoided the job yet.
Well, they haven't yet, yeah.
Remember,
But yeah,
remember they're still in the
we
honeymoon period.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. And obviously they played against the two least physical sides thus far in us and Leicester City. So yeah, you're right. They could continue to struggle. If they do, then we have to be alerted to that.
Yeah, you're right. Whenever he was linked when he was at Atletico,
Mm,
I wasn't that enthusiastic looking at his goal
nah.
record. But now I've got a look at him at close quarters and,
Yeah.
and seen his goal tally increase, and look at it his all round game. Then he's starting to look like a more enticing signing.
Yeah.
He got the assist, of course, for the very unselfish for the second goal.
Hmm.
Could have taken that on himself. I know there was two against one
Yeah.
there, and they had to score. Um, but yeah, there was one wee bit of skill that he did. I think it was in the first half to take out. I think it was he took out a United midfielder, and then Fernandez fouled him and
Hmm.
got. I think he got his first yellow card there. Um, yeah, he was just brilliant again, and to score directly from a corner. Not only does the goalkeeper have to be bad, the delivery has to be unbelievable for
Yeah.
that to happen as well.
Yeah.
And
Delivery was good, but that is completely a mess of our own making. It's ridiculous that.
yeah, I can't think of another club who did that twice
Yeah.
in the space of a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we managed it
Yeah,
with
and
two
then with
different
that kind of
goalkeepers.
stuff, I mean, there's nothing you can really do. Like, it's not like putting people on the on the post is going to help that. Yeah, your goalkeeper needs to be saving that all day long, and it was straight at him.
Well,
It went for.
what I would say is Onana has to be stronger, but as I said earlier, when United defenders didn't even recognise that Wolves players were surrounding him, they
Yeah,
should have come in there and start pushing these players out of the way, like any other team would do. But they didn't even recognise it, they didn't see it.
definitely,
I mean, you know, whenever you see it all the time in the Premier League or any league where a goalkeeper is being intimidated by opposition players to put him off, and then the defense come in and get stuck into the forwards that are trying to put the goalkeeper off. You
hmm,
can't just let them surround Onana like that and do nothing about it.
absolutely.
It's a team game.
Hmm.
Oh, don't get me started. Um, somebody said to me when we're 3-0 down against Bournemouth that we should have got Areola in. No, I don't agree with that, even though I think he's a good coach. He would find himself in exactly the same situation that
Yeah.
Amorim has found himself in.
Oh, it would have been
Was we
exactly the same. I do rate him as a coach, though. I think he's very talented, and certainly wouldn't surprise me if he got a bigger job down the line.
He will, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, the players that we have are just not
Yeah. And
suited
also it
to.
speaks to the financial might of the Premier League, the fact that they've got people like him and even players like Evan Nelson who play for Bournemouth now, who we were watching last season score goals in the Champions League. It speaks to the power of the Premier League.
And supposedly Bournemouth have a higher budget than AC Milan.
See what I
That's
mean?
where,
See what I mean? Do you know how ridiculous that is? Like, like, like even Wolves, when you look at them, like the fact that they've got players now from Atletico Madrid and Barcelona in their starting lineup, and when we were growing up, they were lucky to get uh, aging legends in their final few years, like Irwin and Paul Ince and that. It's a totally different ball game.
yeah, it's unbelievable given the size of their stadium
Yeah.
compared to the San Siro. But that's the TV money that the Premier League
Hmm.
generates all around the world. Um, but yeah, they went to fifth in the Premier League after beating us, and they've just been a revelation this season
Yeah.
under this manager. But like, I just think that Areola would equally struggle with our squad
Hmm.
if he took over on the 24th of November. So I don't agree with the comment that Areola is a better manager than Amorim. I just think that
They
if you're a
both have
man,
their own merits as far as I'm concerned. So it's one of those. In this current situation, the only sort of person that could have come in and done better is more your Mourinho type managers, that just play disgusting football. They might have been able to get a few more results by playing horribly. But again,
yeah,
it's a short term thing, isn't it? It looks as if we're in this to try and fix this in the long run. So you have to kind of just
yeah,
suffer through this until we get to that.
you're using the exact words that the manager has used in a lot of his press
Oh,
conferences. Um,
it's funny because I missed the press conference. Is that what he said?
yeah, yeah, he's used the word suffer quite a bit, I
Wow.
think,
Yeah.
and you know, even after we beat Everton 4-0, he
Yeah.
said a storm was coming,
Mm, mm.
and he was damn right about that. Um, Ronaldo has been backing Amorim quite recently.
I saw one or
Um,
two quotes on the timeline from Ronnie. Again, I haven't actually listened to the speech. I probably will at some stage. From what I'm hearing from the quotes, it all makes sense.
yeah, so one of the quotes from Ronaldo was, "I knew it would be tough and they will continue the storm, but the storm will finish and the sun will rise."
Mm,
That is what Ronaldo has said about United under Amorim. So he said that he's a really good coach and he will turn this around if they give
yeah.
him time. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, because
But
we've seen glimpses, haven't we? It's literally just comes down to personnel now. You can't take this any further until you
and
have the players that suit what it is that he's trying to
yeah,
do. So,
another important thing that he said was that I think it was in the very early days, maybe after the Ipswich game,
hmm.
that he could easily revert back to a system that will get results now. But he
Yeah,
said in 12 months' time, we'll
yeah.
find ourselves in the same situation.
Exactly, because it
So,
just means that you delay the inevitable. Because if that's the way he wants to play, then yeah, I agree. Like, because if you stop it and then start it in the summer, there's going to be teething issues there as well. But then obviously, like I keep going back to, this is the key thing. It's a results-based industry, so you need to buy yourself time to do what it is that you're trying to implement, whilst picking
yeah,
up an acceptable number of points.
another thing, yeah, that's important. It's such a catch-22 in a way, in that
Mm,
you you want to implement your system, but you have to get results. And in
yeah.
order to get players to buy into your system, you need to win
You need to
games.
win
If
games.
you're,
And
yeah,
also, when things are going wrong, you need to be like a Swiss Army knife. You need a plan B and C. Like, you can't just be married to one or two things. Like, if it goes wrong, you need to be able to switch it up.
yeah, you can't be like Ange Postecoglou, who only has
Yeah.
one way of playing.
Oh, when we
And
played that, oh, Kyle, I thought that was absolutely ridiculous, mate. After the two absolute howlers by Fraser Forster, Um, the fact that they still passed it back to him and they were doing the same thing, the mind boggles. I was so shocked. After two howlers, they were still playing the same way with the passes back to the goalkeeper, putting him under pressure. I was like, this is insane. If I was the manager, I
yeah,
might have just hooked him for his own sake after the second blunder.
I was loving it. Um,
Because at that point, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? My goalkeeper's lost his mind. I'm just going to take him out of the firing line because now he's nervous. Now every ball that goes to him, he's second thinking it.
I loved Ahmad chasing him down like Tevez,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
get right on top
yeah,
of him,
yeah,
forcing
yeah.
the
The work
mistake.
rate, yeah, it was brilliant. But that's what we need. We need that from more than one man, though. We need that from a couple of them in the squad.
We'll bring Rashford back. He'll do that. No, that's not gonna happen.
Oh, see, I'll tell you what I wouldn't give for a player like Tevez or a Wazza in this team that are just
Yeah,
selfless to just give 100%. Just
we don't have that guy who can carry the team on his own, do
nope,
we? We just
nope.
don't.
And there's no one player as well that you just think, "Do you know what? If we brought him in, it would fix everything. It could be one of the best players in the world. It wouldn't fix what's going on right now. You know?
No, we have become a graveyard for players,
Hmm.
and it's worrying that. Do you remember in the old days under Fergie, whenever you left United, you were going down? It's worrying the amount of players you leave and they excel
And
elsewhere.
yeah, they look good elsewhere. But then
Yeah,
I've always it's been really annoying me because I knew it would come on the back of defeats, right? But the revisionism, like suddenly a lot of people are loving Elanga. And listen, I'm really happy for the kid. He's one of ours. He come through the academy and that. But no, don't be stupid. If why do you want Elanga back? And not to mention, he wouldn't fit the system either. He's
no.
also more of a winger. And if we did have him, you lot would be dissing him, saying, "Oh, get him out of here.
If he
Sell
gets the
him. It's
Mo
pure
Salah level,
profit," is what we'd be hearing if he was here.
if he gets the Mo Salah levels, then I'll have him back.
Yeah,
But not
yeah,
at the moment.
yeah,
Um, I think know what it is. He's actually improved as a player. That's why he's
yeah.
excelling at Forest, but
But he's
not to the
improved as
level
a
where I'd
player,
want him
Carl,
back.
because there's less pressure at Nottingham Forest, and he's been given
Yeah,
ample game time, which he probably wouldn't get at our club.
yeah. Unless Ranić was the manager.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's doing well at Forest, but not to the point where I'm like, oh, get him back on
yeah,
for re-signing.
yeah. So stuff like that. Even Scott McTominay, because I've caught the occasional Napoli game, and it's much of the same to be honest. But obviously, when you clip just the good parts, it looks very different in a compilation.
Yeah, and even right down to Wan-Bissaka as well.
Hmm.
And you see him getting on the score sheet, you see him
Yeah.
getting even assists.
Hmm.
But when you actually watch the West Ham game,
Yeah.
he's not really that good,
No.
you know.
No.
So s- we're making the mistake of hyping players up based on highlights, and when they're just
Basically, yeah,
clips.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's exactly what it is. But I'm happy for them though. Like I'm not like whenever anyone passes through the club, like I don't like wish them to go on and fail or anything. I'm actually quite happy for them when they achieve success, and I understand that we move them on for the right reasons. So yeah.
yeah, and there's a few more need to be moved on for
Mhm.
the right reasons.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely. There's a lot of work to be done.
a lot. I feel that if possible, we need a Chelsea style transfer window with 11 in, 11 out.
Yeah.
But
And I'll tell you what,
it,
we'll give credit to them because it looked like a hot mess for a long time. And it kind of was. It was an utter shambles. But I'll tell you what, uh, if you look at the profile of player they were getting, the potential ceiling, the ages, they're set up really well for the foreseeable future. Like that midfield, even like, Enzo, Casado, Lavia, that will last you 5 to 10 years.
it absolutely will, and I think eventually they'll be challenging for the title.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
people thought this season, but
Yeah,
I
so
thought it was
so
too
that
early.
that's
And
the advantage in identifying all these young talented players with high ceilings, even if they're not quite the finished article, even if you overpay a little bit. This is the thing. If you're going to keep them for 10 years or the best part of 10 years and you think they can be one of the best in their position at some point, then it's worth the investment. And in that situation, even if you overpay a little bit, it's not so bad.
yeah, they've exceeded all
Mm-hmm.
expectations, and fair play to them.
And
I love
credit to
we
Maresca as well, because I certainly didn't see that coming. A manager who's had no experience at all of the Premier League, coming into it for the first time, and then just taking hold of it like he has done. Like he set out early doors that, these are my 22 players or whatever. The rest of them, I can't do anything about it. They're not part of my plans.
yeah they've had a good season, but they just had a reality check there by losing at home to
Yeah, yeah,
Fulham.
to
And
Fulham. Yeah, I saw the highlights of that. Fulham deserved that as well. It wasn't like by chance, you know. And again, it just goes to show the quality in this league. There are no easy games per se. And it's no surprise to me that the three bottom clubs are the ones that are newly promoted and the one with the smallest budgets.
mm, like, I don't think we'll be relegated, but at the minute, it doesn't look like we're going to qualify for Europe, which is
Yeah.
not not only going to be damaging for next season in terms of our entertainment,
hmm
but damaging in terms of our budget for next season as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. The only thing we can do is, well, we have to go all out in the Europa League to try and win it.
You know, the the more we lose in the league,
hmm
the more important the Europa League becomes, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, it was important to me anyway, but yeah, absolutely, it's imperative. Not only to like just get a trophy, but also that means European qualification as well for next season.
Yeah, and that would be a Champions League spot if we
Yeah,
won that tournament.
yeah. And
But
the money that that would bring in, it would really help. Even if you were to, actually, you can't even go out in the group stages now, can you? It's a different kind of group stages. I suppose you can go out, but yeah, depending on where you finish in the table. Also, that's the other thing that I'm worried about, Kyle, because with 7 games coming up in January, we really don't need any additional. So it's imperative that we qualify in one of those automatic positions in the Europa League, because otherwise it goes to a two-legged playoff round.
yeah, well, we have to beat Rangers in Stoke Bucharest.
Yep,
Like,
yep.
for anyone who doesn't realise, Rangers are just one position below us in that league
hmm
table, and they have had a great away record so far in the
Yeah,
Europa League. So nobody should count their chickens and think that we're going to steamroll
absolutely
them at
not.
Old Trafford.
Absolutely not. And that is
It-
really
it's-
the game that we should be aiming to win, though, because that would, in theory, allow us to rotate fully against Dua. But that's dream world. I'll just take a victory if I can, by any means.
I'm not sure victory at home to Rangers would absolutely guarantee us the top
Mm,
eight spot, but we'll
mm.
see how it pans out.
Yeah,
It
we'd
will
have
have
to
to. It
keep an
will.
eye on the table and see how other results affect it all. But that was my thinking when I first saw the table, though, when I saw our fixture list, because it's crazy. 7 games in Jan is crazy.
Yeah, well, and it would have been nine if we got
Well,
through against Tottenham.
yeah, to the Carabao as well. Yeah, madness.
But you see, at the moment, that Liverpool away game and that Arsenal away game
Yeah,
in the cup, those are write-offs the way we're playing.
yeah, yeah.
You
And
know,
then I mean, yeah. I was gonna say then we got a respite against Southampton. Uh, but yeah, that's after that it's Brighton,
well,
then it's the Rangers game, then we've got Fulham as well to see off the rest of the month. So yeah,
the only winnable game is Southampton there,
Southampton
really.
is the only one that I'm thinking I'm like, yeah, there's no way we should be losing to them. The Brighton one can be tricky. It has been in the past. Fulham as well. Like I say, we just saw what they did to Chelsea.
Mm, worrying. Uh,
Yeah,
I remember Fulham out playing us under Ten Hag, and
and there's only 3 days between the Rangers game and Fulham.
yeah, well, it's gonna be a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because he can only, usually you will play on a Sunday after a Thursday night game.
hmm
Sometimes you might get the MNF match, but very rarely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember Fulham outplaying us against when we had Ten Hag as manager, but not getting the result.
Mm.
If they outplay us at the moment, I can see them getting the result.
Yep.
Um, one case that really sticks out, and I think we did the podcast that day after the game, is when they outplayed us in the FA Cup quarter final, and then Willian handed one on the line, and they
hmm
just imploded then, and we ended up winning 3-1 against 9 men
Yep.
in the end. But Fulham were the better team that day before they imploded. But we can't rely on that,
hmm
anymore. But I think if we play them in current form, they'll beat us.
Yeah.
Uh, but we've got
They're
so many games
undefeated
before
in the
that.
last 5. They've got 2 wins and 3 draws.
Yeah, Marco Silva tends to have these spells where his teams play really great stuff and get
hmm
results, and then they kind of fall off a wee bit.
Yeah, yeah.
They're very up and
They've
down.
only lost 4 of the 18 games they've played this season. Only 4 defeats.
Mhm. Very impressive.
Yeah.
He was linked with the United job. He's one of the names that were being talked about.
Mm.
But I'm really really worried about that Anfield game in particular.
Ah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I've
Especially the form them lot
like
are in. Scored the
like we
most goals in the
lost
league,
we
conceded the
lost
least.
7-0. It could it be more this time? That's what
Actually,
I'm
no.
really worried about.
Sorry, Arsenal have conceded the least. They've conceded 17 to Arsenal 16. But yeah, they've scored the most goals in the
Now,
league. 40 goals scored. Ah,
yeah, Arsenal are missing Saka at the minute, but even at
mm,
that, I wouldn't fancy our chances to win that game.
no,
And even if they heavily rotated Arsenal, I still wouldn't fancy
yeah.
us. To be honest, that's how poor we are.
They were somewhat
But
fortunate yesterday though to beat Ipswich. I was kind of surprised by that result. I thought they would score a fair few goals.
yeah, even Ipswich look good against us.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does apart from City
Mm-hmm.
and Everton. But yeah, our victories are few and far between at the moment.
Yeah, you just
Um,
don't know where the next 3 points is coming from, do you, Carl?
no, I don't. With Newcastle,
Yeah,
Liverpool, Arsenal coming up, I don't see where so it's conceivable that Southampton could be our next win.
yeah.
That's pretty galling to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, I hate saying this. We lost 7-0 2 seasons ago at Anfield. The way we're playing, the way they're playing,
Oh,
could
don't
easily happen
don't
again.
even say it. Don't even think it. don't,
Do you
don't.
know, somebody said to me, whenever I mentioned this after the Wolves game,
Yeah,
a comment came in to say, mate, as this is someone else said this, not me.
yeah.
As a United fan, I'm not even watching this Liverpool game anymore. I can't bear
Listen.
it.
Like all I will say is I hope Ruben, as a talk with Fergie, because even when we were playing attacking, free flowing football with wingers running up and down all over the place, we would go and play them and play a 4-5-1, just stink the place out.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a lot of rewriting of history about the Alex Ferguson era.
Hmm.
Do you see when we played away games against
Yeah,
tough opposition, we went defensive and
very
pragmatic.
defensive. Like how often were the likes of Nicky Butts and John O'Shea's and Phil Neville's the heroes?
Yeah,
So yeah, forget all of this free flowing, sexy football stuff. Like against certain teams, you do what needs to be done.
yeah. Even when you see the season that we won the league and the Champions League in
Hmm.
2008, we went to Anfield, parked the bus, and won
Yep.
1-0 with a Tevez goal.
Yep.
And Liverpool had most of the ball, most of
Hmm.
the possession, most of the chances,
Yep.
but we played pragmatically, got the result, and went home with the 3 points.
Hmm.
So that's United at their very best, going to Anfield.
Yeah.
So at the moment, there's no way we can go there and play attacking football. We'll just be
Yeah.
fucking destroyed. Um,
And especially with
so
that man in that form that he's in, I think I read a stat. I think this is the first time in Premier League history, Carl, that a player's got a double double by December.
a double double, a double
Got,
double in
goals and
terms of.
assists, so in double figures.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
He's almost matched his tally for the whole of the output for the whole of last season. He's only like a brace and an assist away from matching his output for the whole of last season. So it's incredible stuff.
Has he been given a new contract yet?
No, no, no. I need him to piss off. I need Real Madrid or someone to come take him.
Given his age, that might not happen,
But
But
Florentino Perez, he's been known to do wild things. I just need him to go somewhere. I don't care where. Just away from the Premier League, away from them.
might be too late to stop their 20th title, though.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think that's very much in their hands. Yeah, and unless they
I
have
don't
some
see,
serious injuries to key players, I think that's in the bag. To be honest,
I don't see Arsenal or Chelsea being anywhere near consistent enough to
nah,
trouble them.
nah. It very much reminds me of that Leicester City season where everybody else is just sort of beating each other. So they've pretty much got a free run at it, really.
And it could turn into the 2020 season where Liverpool just wrap it up very
That
early with
was
about.
yeah, and honestly, that was probably the greatest charge towards a title I've ever seen. Just in terms of how fewer points were lost en route, it was
And
insane.
it it was interrupted by COVID, obviously, but
Yeah, yeah,
they got over the line quite easily if
yeah.
you set that aside.
Mhm, mhm.
They're on the road to doing that again. Uh, whereas we are even worse now than
Yeah,
we were back then.
yeah. They've only lost one game. It was that what? It was that defeat to Nottingham Forest early on in the season, and that's all they've had. They've got a game in hand as well because that the Everton fixture got called off due to bad weather. So yeah, they're comfortably top of the table with a game in hand. It's crazy.
They always beat Everton anyway. They win that game in
Yeah,
hand, no
that hasn't
problem.
really been a fair derby for years. You'd have to go back to the days of like Tim Cahill uh, and in his prime, Leighton Baines and that.
Um, and I remember under Benitez, Everton beat them 3-0 at Goodison,
Mm,
and I think was it Andy Johnson scored after an error from Pepe Reina.
mm.
So yeah, see the Everton victories are so few and far between.
You can
You can
remember the
remember them in your
victories.
head. um, yeah, Andy Johnson didn't he get send him from Palace Everton? He scored all them
Yeah, yeah, Crystal
penalties.
Palace boy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So here's what I'm going to do, guys. If we beat Newcastle, we'll come back on and we'll do a positive podcast. If we don't, I'm just going to leave it because all we're going to be doing is saying the same things
Yeah,
over
we're
and
just
over
gonna. Yeah,
again.
we're just. Yeah, yeah. You guys might as well just watch this back if we continue losing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we'll be
that's a
back
good
in a few weeks' time. And then, if it's defeats, we'll just group all the defeats together. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, because it does get hugely challenging to do content when you're just losing all
It
the time,
does,
you know.
yeah. It's very demoralizing because you don't want to come here and just yell and just be upset because I'm wary of that as well. That's why I don't really like doing reactions straight after the game. I like to calm down a bit. But this time round, I'll tell you what, I was just dejected to be honest. Like I wouldn't even say I was angry, angry. Well, I was angry, but not enough to sort of shout about it. It was different. It was
Yeah,
just accepting exactly where we are. I think that's what it was. And coming to the realization that this isn't going to change.
yeah, it's not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah,
You know, it could conceivably get worse than this before it
yeah,
gets
yeah. Because
better.
it's insane, isn't it, to see the same thing and expect different results? It's not gonna.
No, do you know, we go into games now just hoping it'll be different, but knowing
Yeah,
that it won't be.
but no, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. We just hope that some of the players are up for it on the day. And yeah, because definitively you just don't know where goals are coming from, and goals ultimately decide games. And we have also got into the habit of just giving away just silly ones,
Yeah.
which punish us.
But do you know what we need to do? We need to get back to just winning our home games.
Yeah,
You know, I know that sounds like a relegation threatened mentality, but we need to start winning our home games and get back to basics, and then get ready for next season.
that's exactly what it is.
Because this season in the league anyway is not going to amount to anything that
Nope,
we expect at Man United.
nope.
So let's just, you know, finish mid-table. If we can finish in Europe, great,
I
but I
mean,
don't see it
even
at the moment.
mid-table, it might be a stretch.
Yeah,
Because when I look at the amount of competition, Carl, it's insane.
yeah, yeah. I don't think we won back-to-back games this season in the league, which is
Yeah.
shocking, really.
Hmm.
But if any team manages to win back-to-back games, they could jump up quite a few
Yeah.
positions. But we're not capable of even doing that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I know.
I mean, look at it this way, yeah. So from fifth place Newcastle to 13th place West Ham, only 6 points separates that. So you think about all the
Yeah,
other teams in between, like that's the level of competition. So this is why I don't even know. I can't even confidently say somewhere in mid-table. I don't know.
yeah, it's been that way for quite a while.
Yeah.
The only thing is, and this is really clutching the straws, we've got once we play Liverpool at Anfield, I think that's a majority of the really hard away games out of the road by the 5th of January.
Mm.
But the caveat to that is that United are not really capable of beating anybody at the minute, so it doesn't matter whether we're playing
Uh,
Liverpool or playing Bournemouth or playing Fulham.
uh,
These are
uh,
all potential losses.
I tell you what, you made me just have a quick gander at the February fixtures. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better, you know.
Tell me.
So we start off February against Crystal Palace. Uh, Again, we've not had the best of it against them.
We better win that game because
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
tell you why.
yeah.
Because I'm going to that game, so we better win it.
We've got Tottenham then as the second game in Feb. Then we've got Everton, and then we round off the month with Ipswich, and that's probably the only one I'd be somewhat confident about. And then March kicks
Maybe.
off with Arsenal.
Oh, don't. Um, let's hope we're in a much better place by then. But yeah, it's absolutely crucial that I'm not expecting 11 signings in January, but we need to get
Mm.
a couple in for sure in key
No,
areas.
definitely, definitely. That's what I mean. I mean, we have to be smart, but there definitely needs to be an influx of players coming in, be it on loan or whatever. We just need positions filled and people that play that position out and out. So that's why I know I've
Yeah,
somewhat jokingly said, "Listen, I'll take Regulon back." I really would. I would take him back.
don't don't. We need wing backs. Yeah, I think if we can just fill those positions in
Yeah,
January, then I'd be happy. But I think we need a player in every position, to be honest, over the course of the
yeah,
next year.
yeah, yeah. And obviously, this one is wild speculation, but obviously, you hear about the finances at Barcelona, and knowing them, they'll probably find a way out of it because they always do. They'll probably pull a lever or something. But yeah, I'm hearing some stuff about them not being able to register Danny Olmo's wages for the second half of the season, and one of the proposals they put forward being cancelled. So they
Well,
may be forced
yeah,
into a sale or releasing the player or something.
we have to look at stuff like this and get creative. I
Absolutely,
know,
absolutely. We should be there. We need to
yeah,
be there to take advantage of any of these things.
and that just reminds me that there's been a lot of speculation about a Victor Osimhen and Rashford swap deal with
Yep,
Napoli and United, and that's another thing that we should be looking at in January.
definitely, definitely. You have to get creative. You have to look at any of the big clubs, any of them who are struggling financially, and look for these clever deals and part exchanges and things.
If Yeah, if we manage to ship Rashford out in January and bring Osimhen in, that
Yep.
would exceed all my expectations for the January window. That would be
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. Listen, if we could, dare I dream? Nah, it's not going to happen. But yeah, if there was any whiff of us getting like a Danny Olmo, oh my days. Even if it were on loan, if they just can't register his wages and they want to loan him out for the rest of the season, happy days. Just to have a number 10 that's competent and can do that would be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure, we need to get creative in the market.
Hmm.
Um, Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada will have to be very busy in the month of January, and I hope they're busy already. As you say,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
we want to
hoping
get.
they've already put in work behind the scenes because this is the thing. We need to get deals done like we used to, where it's a bit of a surprise to the press. Like, I want us to just start announcing things.
Yeah, you want to have your deal ready to go on the 1st of January.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
in the past we've got new deals done in December, and then the player officially starts on January the 1st. Now,
Yeah.
Vidic was one. I think Avra was one.
Yep.
Larson was one. We used to get these deals done in December, and they were
Yep.
ready to go as soon as January started.
Hmm.
As you say, we should not be signing people on the 31st of January.
Yeah.
That's
No.
no
No.
good.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the only
let's
thing
get
I
it
want to
done.
see on this, at the end of the month is any last minute departures. Who
Yeah,
hopefully we've been trying to ship for the whole window, and if it so happens that it's on the last day that there's interest, then yeah, fair enough.
yeah. I have a funny feeling that we'll be sitting here on the 1st of February, and Rashford will not be a Man United player.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I'd be very surprised if he is, because obviously the
because
situation can't continue. Like the key difference for me this time is the fact that the player has put out a statement that he fancies a new challenge or that he's ready for a new challenge. Once a player does that, I think that is the end. I don't think there's any way back.
and that's probably the reason why he's not being selected. Not
Yeah.
not necessarily because he's so bad in
Hmm.
training, but I think that one statement is why he's not
Absolutely.
being
And
picked.
with regard to that, I am with the manager. It shows weakness now if you bring him back. So I understand why he's made the decision and he has to see it through.
Yeah, it's no secret that Ten Hag and Rashford didn't get along,
Mm.
but he continued to pick him,
Hmm.
and that makes you incredibly weak as a manager.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like you remember that Wolves game, like even when he turned up late to training or whatever, and he started off on the bench, but then you still brought him on,
yeah,
and then
he,
he
he,
scores the
he
goal, and then he's the hero, and it kind of undermines what you're trying to do as well a little bit though. And then the players like, see, even if I take the piss and I turn up late, see what I can do. So you're the power structures, the struggle was very real then. So I understand why Ruben's doing what he's doing.
yeah. Um, and under the previous manager, Rashford was the boss
Yeah,
and Ten Hag was the bitch,
yeah, yeah. That's the
and
thing.
we cannot
Uh-huh.
allow that to
And also,
continue,
I
and it
think
isn't going to
there's
continue.
just an element of people just think the grass is greener on the other side, isn't it, Carl? Like, because we've seen him how often and not do anything. So the chances are, if he was there, we would still like these results would miraculously change. You
Yeah,
know?
the the only like, I didn't feel as if they weren't trying against Wolves.
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, in the first half, it was very obvious how competitive the game was because both
I
sets
thought
of
that
players
first
were
half
really.
was really boring. Like honestly, if it wasn't our team, I would have switched off.
But there was a lot of physicality, a lot of
Yeah.
pressing, a lot of tackling,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I thought it was
the
just
men
interesting. I
in
thought the
whites,
first half we just cancelled each other out because obviously they're set up in exactly the
yeah.
same way. So everybody just sort of marked
But
each other out of it. And then with the fog and that as well, that didn't help. I mean, I say
so
that everyone in the Premier League had to put out with the bloody fog.
I couldn't fault their effort.
Yeah.
But if Rashford was playing, he would have really winded me up because I
Hmm.
know that he wouldn't have put in 100% and he would have been
Especially in
walking back.
contrast when we would have seen the likes of Cunha tracking back and doing all the things that we expect, and Rashi not doing it. Yeah, it would have pissed us off differently. The only thing is obviously with him, he will chip in with the odd goal, and it can come out of nowhere. So there's been many times where he's had very poor games, but then that's kind of covered up by the odd goal. Um, so
Hmm.
yeah, there's that, but ultimately, I don't think it would have changed anything really.
Well, even this season, he has missed some incredible chances where he's
Yeah,
not even hit the target.
yeah.
So I wouldn't be relying on him for
Hmm.
goals. Uh, as I said, he got 30 in 2 seasons ago, but
Yep.
since the beginning of last season, he's only scored 15
And
in all
even that
comps.
one, Carl, if we really go back and look at it, I think people are, mesmerized by the numbers. Like he had a different form that season too. Like it wasn't consistent throughout the season. Because
Yeah,
we
I think,
overplayed him. He come back from injury, and then he wasn't really the same. It's just that some of the prior numbers kind of carried him.
yeah, between the end of the World Cup and the League Cup final is where he got
Yeah.
the majority of them, I think, in
Hmm.
that 2 month spell, and then he dipped off again
Yeah, that's
towards
the
the end
thing.
of
But
the
people
end of the
don't talk
season.
about that
Yeah,
dip. When you just see the number 30, people automatically in their heads just attribute that
and
throughout the season.
and all goals count, of course, but he
Yeah.
only got 17 in the league,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is it's not a massive tally really
Hmm.
for United's main man.
Yeah.
Um, yes, but not to take that away from him, it was a good season from an individual point of view. But there was seen as soon as that season ended, there were United fans who said he won't do that again, and they were
Mm.
right. So I have to give them their kudos for that because they seen it
Hmm.
coming. I didn't want to be negative. I thought, hopefully this is the beginning of a new Rashford that's going to do this every season. But fair play to the United fans who predicted this wouldn't happen again, and they were right.
Mm.
So we shall wrap it up there. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or where you get or wherever you get your podcasts, please subscribe there also and drop us a 5-star rating on iTunes and help us spread the word of this Man United podcast. We try to be positive when everything's going well, but we can't pretend that everything's rosy when things are not going well at the moment,
Yeah, just think of
unfortunately.
it as a group therapy, guys.
Yeah, and the podcast definitely gets more listeners whenever we're winning. and
Mm.
I understand that. But fans do want content whenever we're not winning as well. They want to talk about the issues that are ongoing, and they want to talk about the reasons why we're not winning. So yeah, there's definitely fans who want the therapy as well as the enjoyment when we win. So I shall see you next time then, Brushy.
Yeah, I'll catch you next time.
All right.
Take care.